because ye have overcome the wicked one. I write unto you
Have you planned out where you're going to watch the big eclipse? There are viewing parties everywhere from
The note was there, lying beside her plate when she came down for breakfast.
takes us inside explore.
Later, when she thought back, Julie would remember it. Small, plain. Her name and address hand-lettered in stark black print across the front of the envelope. At the time, however, she had eyes only for the other letter, long and white and official. Hurriedly, she picked this up and paused, glancing across the table at her mother, who had just come into the kitchen. "It's here," Julie said. "Well, aren't you going to open it?" Mrs. James set the coffee pot down on its hot plate. "You've been waiting for this long enough. I would think you've had it open before you even sat down." "I guess I'm scared," Julie admitted. She slipped her forefinger under the corner of the flap. "Okay, here goes." Running her finger the length of the envelope, she drew out the folded sheet of stationery and smoothed it flat on the table. "Dear Miss James," she read aloud, "I am pleased to inform you that you have been accepted." Her mother gave a little gasp of delight. "How wonderful!" "Accepted?" Julie repeated. "Mom, can you believe it? I'm accepted. I'm going to Smith." "I'm so proud of you, Julie." "I can't believe it," Julie said. "I honestly can't. When I took those tests, I felt as though I was missing so many of the questions. I guess I knew more than I thought I did." "It's your senior year that's made this possible," her mother said. "I've never seen such a change in anybody as you in this past year. The way you buckled down and studied. You've been a completely different person. And I'll admit this now, it's worried me a little." "Worried you?" Julie exclaimed in surprise. "I thought you always dreamed of me going to the same college you did. Last year you were on me all the time about being out too much, never cracking a book, and spending half my life at cheerleading practice." "I know. It's just that I never expected you to do such an about-face. I can almost pinpoint the day it happened. It's just about the time you broke up with Ray." "Mom, I told you." Julie tried to keep her voice light, despite the sudden shock of cold that hit her stomach. "Ray and I didn't exactly break up. We just decided we were seeing too much of each other. We'd slow it down for a while. Then he left home and took off for the coast, and, well, I took care of that." "Of course," her mother said. "I'm happy and proud that you put in enough work to get accepted to a good East Coast college, but I wish you'd been able to balance it better. Some have a feeling that you've missed a lot of the fun of your senior year." "Well, you can't have it all," Julie said. Her voice sounded high and sharp, even to her own ears. The cold feeling in her stomach was spreading higher, up where it touched her heart. She shoved her chair and got up. "I'm going up to my room. I've got to find my history notes." "But you haven't eaten," Mrs. James exclaimed, gesturing toward the plate of scrambled eggs and toast, still untouched on the table. "I'm sorry," Julie said. I guess I'm too excited." She could feel her mother's worried gaze upon her as she left the table. Even after she was out of eyesight, the worry stayed with her as she climbed the stairs and went down the hall to her room. "Mom knows too much," she thought. "She has this funny way of knowing more than you'll ever tell her. I've never seen such a change in anybody," her mother had said. "I can almost pinpoint the day." "But you can't," Julie told her silently. "Not really. You shouldn't try." She entered her bedroom and shoved the door shut.
the wicked one. I write.
It closed with a sharp click, and her mother was left behind, back down in the breakfast room with the uneaten eggs and the coffee pot. The room closed protectively around her. A perfect room for a teenage girl who was pretty and loved and happy with herself. A girl who had never had a problem. Her mother had had the room decorated for her over a year ago, on her 16th birthday. "We'll have it done any color you want," she had said. "You can choose." "Pink," Julie had said immediately. It was her favorite color, the one she wore most often, even though she had red hair. There was a pale pink t-shirt in the farthest corner of her closet, buried behind the other clothes. It had been new that night last summer. It looked like a rosebud with freckles, Ray had teased her. The shirt looked great on her, but she had never worn it after that night. She would have given it away if she had not been afraid that her mother might remember it sometime and ask what had become of it. Now she seated herself on the end of her bed, drawing deep, slow breaths while the cold within her faded and her heart grew still. This is dumb, Julie told herself firmly. It's been almost a year since the thing happened. It's over and done with, and I swore to myself I'd never think about it again. If I let myself get this uptight over some innocent little comment of Mom's, I'll wind up right back where I started, an absolute basket case. Across from her in the oval mirror over the bureau, another Julie looked back at her, pale and unsmiling. I have changed, she thought with mild surprise. The girl in the mirror bore little resemblance to last year's Julie, bubbly, bouncy, spark plug of the pep squad, the cheerleader with the smallest size and the biggest yell. This girl had shadows behind her eyes and a tightness about the mouth. You're going to Smith, Julie told herself. Just keep that in mind, will you? You're getting out of here in only a couple months. You'll be going east, away from this town and the road and the picnic area above it. You won't be running into Ray or Barry or Helen. You'll be out, free. New place, new people, new things to think about. She gathered up her books and history notes from the bedside table. Downstairs, she paused long enough to rummage through the coin bowl on the sideboard for enough money to buy a Coke later.
Solar eclipse. That's when the moon blocks the view of the sun, but it's not quite.
I'll see you after school, she said.
Covers the entire sun.
Are you going out any place? I don't have any plans, Mrs. James said. Wait a minute. You didn't get your letter. Yes, I did. It's here in my notebook. No. I mean the other one. Her mother leaned across the table to pick up the second envelope, half concealed by the edge of the egg plate. There were 2 pieces of mail for you this morning. Not that this one could possibly be as exciting as the first one. It's the size of a party invitation, though I don't know who'd be inviting me to a party. Julie took the small envelope from her mother's hand. It's funny, his big block printing and no return address. She tore the envelope open and removed a folded sheet of paper. Who's it from? Her mother called back over her shoulder as she washed the dishes. Anybody I've ever heard of? No, Julie said. Nobody you know. With slowly growing horror, she stared at the letter, at the one black sentence that peered up at her from the smudged paper. I'm going to be sick, she thought. Her legs felt weak, and she reached out and caught hold of the edge of the table to steady herself. It's a dream, she told herself hopefully. I'm not really awake and standing here in the kitchen at all. I'm lying in bed upstairs asleep, and this is only a dream like the ones I used to have back at the beginning. I'll close my eyes, and when I open them, I'll wake up. It will be gone. The paper will be gone. It will never have been. So she closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, the paper was still there in her hand, with one short sentence printed on it.